All right, welcome to the Sports Guys, another edition. This is episode 45 tonight, and tonight we're going to do similar to what we did a week ago when we went over the college football playoff. We made our team breakdowns, matchup breakdowns, and predictions, and tonight we're going to do the NFL playoffs. We're going to go over each of the matchups with you, each of the teams, do a deep dive, and then at the very end, Rob and I are going on record, and we're going to pick our bracket all the way through the Super Bowl. So it can be a lot of fun. How you doing, Robbie?
I'm doing great.
Good, man.
Enjoyed getting myself ready for these first round of playoff games coming up.
Don't it feel like drinking from a fire hose this week with all these games? I mean, five straight days of meaningful games. No more trash games. These all have a lot of implications on both sides of the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
So it's exciting.
It is exciting.
And as we always say, we always try to look back at how we did in our predictions. And so we're going to go on record again tonight, and that'll be fun. We as the sports guys are not scared to do that, even though often we're wrong. But sometimes
we're wrong a fair amount of the time, but we also are able to foresee some things too. So
sometimes we've been dead on the college. We're doing really well so far. I think a lot of those games were pretty predictable, though. So these NFL games may be a little less. We'll see.
Oh, yeah. There's more parity in the NFL, even though college has adopted more of it.
So going in, do you have like two or three teams that you think are just kind of like your horses for the NFL playoffs? Who's kind of the teams you're most looking at, and that, if you were to be completely objective, these are my three horses heading into the battles?
Definitely Lions.
Mm-hmm.
Lions, Eagles, and I think the Vikings could create a lot of problems for people if their D played huge.
Yeah.
That would be a dark horse.
For me, it's come down to 5 teams I think can win it. I don't think the other 9 teams can. So it's really like the haves and the have-nots. I think that on the NFC side, the Lions and the Eagles have a chance to win it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on the AFC side, it's the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Bills. And
I'm sorry, the Ravens. That's the one I was thinking of.
I think those 3 teams all have a chance to win it. So I think it's down to 5 teams. I really don't think any of the other 9 have a legitimate or realistic chance. And if any of those 9 do win it, it'll be a complete shock to the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to look at what the Vegas odds are on each of these teams, and you'll see why I say that. Vegas agrees with us that those 9 teams don't really have a chance. So it would be a remarkable and move mountains type of situation if any of those teams came through. So I think it's down to 5 teams, unless we have some kind of major injury in the first quarter or something where one of them gets knocked out. But I think those are the 5 teams. And I think that it's really hard to win the Super Bowl unless you have a legitimate quarterback. And so that goes a long way to choosing those 5 teams that have a quarterback who has championship pedigree.
When you look at the quarterback play, it almost mirrors the production of the offenses.
Mm-hmm.
And other than Joe Burrow, it's like a straight line down of most of the playoff teams. So,
right.
There's some predictability to this. I mean, I've been surprised that almost all the playoff teams are leading the league in both offensive and defensive categories.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody who's bad in one or the other and still in it. So,
although when I show the rankings of offense and defense, you'll see there's a couple teams that are ranked pretty low in the top 15, and I really wonder about some of those teams like the Rams.
It's very strange, though, how you grade a defense is different. For instance, let me give you an example. The Steelers are thought of as one of the best defenses in the NFL, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're excellent at takeaways. They're very high up rated, but they're very low rated in sacks. So is it a bad defense or is it a good defense? It's very hard to quantify what a good defense is.
I'll
You
tell you,
kind of
there's
know,
only
you know it when you see it, but I think of sacks and turnovers as some of the best indicators. But there's other indicators like points allowed, third down conversions allowed. So I mean, it just kind of
the most important stat for a defense is points allowed. And to me, the two best defenses from a points allowed perspective were the Lions and the Chargers the entire season.
actually the Lions aren't nearly the best defense.
They're not the best defense. I'm talking about points allowed. To me,
Yeah, I mean,
the stat points allowed is the most important stat on defense.
there's a lot of important
So the
stats.
Chargers,
Giving up third downs and staying on the field.
the Chargers have the record they do because they were only giving up 20 points a game. Their offense wasn't that great most of the year,
That's
but
true.
they give up so few points that
That's
they
true.
in every game. So whereas on other stats they're not that great, but
But
when
like
it
for
comes,
instance, as a team stat, I like point differential. That's you
Mhm,
score so much more than the other team. Well, who's crushing everyone in that? The Lions.
mhm.
So, you know, there's just different stats you can look at. But at the end of the day, you go with the best overall viewpoint of it all and who can do the most damage in most different ways. Can you play in snow? Can you run the ball and run the clock out if you have a lead?
Mhm.
Can you come back from a lead? That takes quarterback play.
When you average offensive ranking, defensive ranking, and special teams ranking, do you know what team is the best average of those three if you average them all three together?
Lions.
Lions, by
Yep.
far. So
Yeah.
that tells me they're the most complete team in football.
But who's second in point differential?
Good question.
Eagles.
Eagles, yeah. Yeah, I mean,
So
they're in
they're
the top
good.
five.
They're good at takeaways and they're good at scoring points.
They're one of those five teams that can win the Super Bowl. There's no
Yeah.
question. Yeah. I still like the Lions in that game, but it's going to be a
No, I
great
do
one.
too, but that's gonna be a monster.
If that's the game to get to the Super Bowl, it'll be a great one
Yeah.
for sure. Let's go ahead and dive in.
Let's do it.
All right, so this is our episode 45, our NFL playoff bracket breakdowns and predictions show. You can see the Lombardi trophy there, one of the most famous trophies in sports. In previous episodes, we've talked about other great trophies. The MLB trophy is pretty good. The Stanley Cup's probably the greatest trophy in sports. That NCAA basketball trophy is pretty fun for the kids, but this one is pretty iconic. The Lombardi
Mhm.
trophy, to be able to hold that up high
Yeah.
is really what all these guys want. And you can see guys like Tyreek Hill and others who are trying to leave teams because they want to be able to compete for the Lombardi trophy. It's really all it's about for the guys who are long in the tooth and kind of late in their careers is they're really ring chasing. So what are your thoughts about where do you rank the Lombardi trophy on the pedestal of other
I think
great
it's
trophies?
second to Stanley Cup.
Do you?
Yeah.
I think so too. I'd say, World Cup trophies probably up there
Mm.
in the top three or four, just in terms of importance. That's a great trophy too. The MLB
How about
trophy is pretty
how about those
iconic.
plates they give you at Wimbledon or something?
Yeah, that's true. That's right. Yeah, there's some good ones, but yeah, I would put this second as well. I think Stanley Cup for me is always the most iconic. Um,
Yeah.
but this one I think has now emerged as number two. I agree with that. So when you look at this epic photo that's behind you and me right now, this really kind of says it all. This is the best player on each of the 14 teams. And you can see all the different caricatures of each of these guys and who they are. You got Josh Allen and Mahomes and Jameer Gibbs, and you got Justin Jefferson up there in the middle, and Jordan Love and Herbert and all these guys. All these guys, of course, want that trophy, and it's all going to go down February 9th weekend
Mhm.
in New Orleans. Game time is 6:30 on Fox, and we're all going to actually be up in the mountains at Sugar Green. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch this game as a family.
Sugar Mountain.
Sugar Mountain, yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. So
Yeah.
if we look at the schedule itself this weekend for the wild card round, Chargers play the Texans on Saturday at 4:30. This game is in Houston. The current line right now is Chargers -3. How are you feeling about that line? You think that's about right?
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of. I think it's kind of even to me. Like I might take the Texans and the points.
Really?
Maybe. I
Yeah,
have heard quite a few people today calling for some upsets involving the Texans.
maybe.
Yeah,
I,
their
I'd feel
defense is underrated, man.
I'd feel a lot better about this line if it was 2.5. I'd go Chargers, but at -3, I think it's going to be a push. I think this will be a field goal game. I do think the Chargers are going to win this game. We'll get into our overall picks later, but I would feel much better about this line at 2.5. I agree with that.
I'll tell you, I was pretty stunned when we were talking last night at some of the defensive statistics for the Texans. I
Mm-hmm.
had no idea some of the damage their defense has done, and it really explains why CJ Stroud playing kind of poorly down the stretch, why they were able to be 10-7. You know, it's
Right.
they got they had 49 sacks, 106 tackles for loss. 106, just to put in context, most everyone else is in the 80 range. They had 19 interceptions and 10 fumble recoveries. Pretty strong in all the categories.
Defense is very good. Defense is very
It was
good.
a Yeah. I know that they play in a relatively weaker division, so I take some of that into account.
Texans
But
regress this year for a couple of reasons. It was on the offensive side
offensively,
of the ball. Their offensive line was not very good this year. It really gave a lot of pressure up. And Diggs, who came in from Minnesota, did not have a very good year. He was really average and pedestrian.
well, he got hurt.
He got hurt, and then the other guy
He's been
got
out
hurt,
for the season for a long time, and so is Tank Dell. So
and Nico
they're
Collins was hurt
they're
a
really
lot of the
down.
year.
They're down to
So,
Nico Collins, kinda, and he's been hurt off and on. So they're very banged up on offense.
and Nico Collins, by the way, is his favorite receiver, and so all those games that he was out really hurt them because they just didn't have the
Yeah,
weapons they usually do.
that's
So they
right.
regressed for a lot of those reasons. They
Nico
did,
Collins has been hurt some, but he has 1,006 yards receiving.
right.
Pretty impressive for somebody who's been out some of the
When he
season.
plays, he's fantastic. There's just
Yeah.
no doubt about it. So our next game here is the Ravens. They're favored 9.5 points over the Steelers, which I never thought I'd see a line like that between these two in the playoffs. But that's how poorly the Steelers are playing, and Vegas just looks at the Steelers as kind of dead men walking right now. Their offense
Yeah.
just can't get out of their own way. They can't block anybody. They can't get the ball to a receiver. Their running game is essentially non-existent. Russell Wilson looks deer in the headlights on every play now. He just isn't throwing the ball the same way. It doesn't have the same kind of time. And the
He's
Ravens
he's
come
the
in playing
second
really
he's the
well.
22nd ranked quarterback, and
Right,
he's the lowest ranked quarterback in the playoffs. So
right. And the
it's not
Ravens
good.
come in playing really, really well. They're getting all their guys back and healthy. All the receivers are back. All the tight ends are back. So they are looking really solid. I don't know if I'd lay this many points in a game this important, just me personally.
Yeah, it'll be a tight game.
But I like Ravens by a touchdown, something like that.
Steelers get a lot of turnovers,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I
not a
think
lot of sacks. So,
they'll probably keep it close for a half, and then Ravens will put it on them. But I think that'll be pretty good Saturday games right there. Looking forward to both.
well, Tom, you know how I am about the Ravens. If Derrick
Yeah,
Henry gets the ball a lot, it's over.
yeah,
Like,
that's right.
and if he doesn't, it's also over. They're
That's
gonna
true.
lose.
That's true. They're not going to lose this game. The Steelers are not that good right now. Matter of
If
fact, they're
Derrick
the
Henry gets more than 25 carries, it's over.
matter of fact
They're
the
going.
Steelers have the lowest odds to make the Super Bowl of the 14 teams. So that's the kind of
Yeah,
respect that
they
they're
have the
getting.
they have the highest hill to climb.
Yeah. So on Sunday, the first game is the 1 o'clock game. Bills favored by 8.5 over the Broncos. I could not believe that line. That's way too high. I would definitely take Broncos and the points in this game.
That's crazy. Yeah,
I do think the Bills will win this game. I think it'll be a very tough fought, but I think that I'm going to go with a better quarterback in this situation and the more experience. Um, and I think the Broncos are still about a year away from really contending. So, but 8.5 is a crazy line. What do you think about that one?
I wouldn't be shocked if the Broncos won it.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very good game. I'm not saying they're going to win it. I'm not like predicting that right now or anything. I'm just saying that I think 8.5 is a crazy line.
Mm-hmm.
Broncos are incredibly ranked in all categories. I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
5th in point differential. Their quarterback play is unbelievable. Like
Mm-hmm.
for a rookie, Nix has 3,775 yards, 29 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
That's good
Yeah.
stuff. And they have weapons. Cortland Sutton, Javonte Williams running the ball,
Mm-hmm.
and their defense. So, I
I
mean,
have to imagine a lot of the big players in the market are hammering the Broncos right now, taking the 8.5 points. That's what I have to think.
Tom, they have 63 sacks. Everyone else is in the 40s.
Right. Yeah, they're
You know,
incredibly disruptive.
they're disruptive.
Although they're
94
playing a different,
tackles for loss,
they're
15
playing,
picks, and 10 fumble
they're
recoveries.
playing a different kind of quarterback here, though. This is not a
I
quarterback
agree.
playing.
It's going to be a challenge. I'm not
Yeah.
saying they're going to win it. I'm just saying that all these people who are saying that that's going to be a blowout. I mean, that's one of the biggest blowouts predicted, and I don't see that.
I will say this is not the Dolphins going into Buffalo in 10-degree weather with snow. This is the Broncos, and they're used to it. So that really helps them a lot going into Buffalo. I think it's going to be a very good game. I do think the Bills will win because of Josh Allen. I think Josh
I
Allen's
think
fine.
I predict the Bills will win, and it's because of their running game.
Yeah.
Allen and Cook together running the ball when it's going to be cold. The
Mm-hmm.
vortex is coming in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be too much for the Broncos to handle,
Mm-hmm.
but I will not be surprised if the Broncos win this game.
Well, we'll see what happens. I would take the points, though. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
Next game, 4:30. We got the Eagles and Packers. This is the game the Packers were trying to avoid, and all they had to do was win. And instead, they inexplicably lost to the Bears and gave the slot to the Commanders. And now they have to go on the road to Philly, banged up, not healthy, against an Eagles team that's been resting for 2 weeks. And I like the Eagles in this. I would actually lay the 4.5 points here if I was betting this one. I think the Eagles are going to win by 10 to 14 points. What are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Love's playing hurt. They haven't been spectacular down the stretch. They've been kind of teetering. Their defense has been exposed a little bit. So even though the Packers are 4th in point differential, which means they have a good offense and defense,
Right.
I still feel like the only way they win this game is if the Eagles don't run the ball a lot and try to have Hurts win it for them. And
this is the kind of mismatch where they're going to need about 3 or 4 turnovers to win. That's the kind of mismatch this is.
Maybe.
Which
For the Eagles and the Ravens, it's kind of the same thing. If they do a good game plan, they cannot lose.
Steelers cannot win unless
they veer away from the game plan, then they can lose.
Steelers cannot win unless they get 3 or 4 turnovers, and Packers are the same way. They're going to have a bunch of turnovers from the Eagles, a bunch of weird plays, tips at the line, fumbles, that kind of thing. But no, I think Eagles will take care of business there. Next game we got on Sunday at 8:00. This is the Commanders and Buccaneers. This is the game is in Tampa, and the line just came out, Buccaneers -3, which really surprised me. Wasn't quite sure why the Buccaneers were favored. Maybe it's just because they're at home. I like the Commanders to win this game outright.
Yeah, I do too.
And so I would take the points there, obviously. I think it's going to be a good battle. Baker Mayfield's playing particularly well, so is Mike Evans. Gives them a chance. They're running the ball well. Their defense has been playing a little bit better, but I think Jaden makes a special play or two in the fourth quarter to win this one.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that matchup. And then the last one is on Monday night at 8:00. The Vikings are favored on the road in Los Angeles in the Dome, -1. So they're giving up a point.
It was 2.5, so that's tightened.
So what do you think about that game?
I think the Rams are the worst team in the playoffs, along with the Steelers. So I think the Vikings take that one for sure.
Okay.
If you look statistically at the Rams, I mean, there's no area they look good in.
Just like
they're negative 19 in point differential.
Mhm. Yeah. I will say, Puka's been resting, Stafford's been resting, they've been resting all their guys, Kyron Williams.
Yeah.
They have all their
They have
guys back. We'll see. The Vikings are the better team. We'll just see if they take care of business
Yeah.
on the road, you know?
Vikings are the better team. But I will say that the Rams have Stafford and
Right.
some really good weapons with Stafford. So
True.
that's a dangerous team to play.
Well, I am really excited about all 6 of these matchups. I can't wait to
Mhm.
watch it. Pumped and ready to go. So
Yeah.
let's take a look at those offense-defense statistics. This is the final statistics from NFL.com. The Baltimore Ravens were the number 1 offense across the board this year. Detroit's number 2 in this ranking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
close second. Tampa's number 3. The 49ers were 4. Green Bay 5. Falcons 6. Commanders 7. Eagles 8. Bengals 9. They're not even in it. Buffalo 10. Cardinals. The Vikings are all the way down at 12, and the Rams were already all the way down at 15, which kind of surprised me how low they were. I guess it's because they had a lot of people banged up this year. So any thoughts about this? These guys who are ranked in the top 10, most of them the big-time contenders.
the Rams and the Steelers are the lowest.
Yeah, Steelers weren't even in the top 15 on NFL.com.
I know. They're 22.
Yeah.
I'm surprised the Niners are up there that high.
Right. They had actually a really good year offensively. They just had a lot of unfortunate situations this year with all
You
the
know what's
people banged up.
crazy? Quarterback-wise, Hurts is second from the bottom
Yeah,
out of the playoff group.
that's right. Yep.
So
He definitely gives me pause. I mean, the Eagles are very good, and I think they can win this thing, but
they have such a good roster, you know?
I'd put them number 5 out of the top 5 because of Hurts. I just think he's
Yeah.
very inconsistent.
He could limit them.
I don't know what I get from him, game to game. I was surprised Buffalo was this low.
I'm not.
I was very surprised they were that low. That's interesting. So that's the offensive rankings.
Are you kidding? Josh Allen is ranked 12th.
Yeah.
He's a 12th ranked quarterback. So, I mean, I'm not that surprised. Their defense actually put up big numbers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They're kind of winning because of their defense.
So if you look at the defensive numbers, Philadelphia Eagles come in first. Tennessee Titans second, which I was like, wow, what? Jets came in as the 3rd ranked defense. Miami Dolphins 4th. Texans 5th. Packers 6th. Broncos 7th. Niners 8th. Chiefs 9th. And Ravens 10th. And then you have a bunch of teams down below. You got Chargers at 11. Pittsburgh Steelers at 12. Again, this is just raw stats. It's not all the pure statistics. It's pure raw stats at this point.
Well, it's mostly yardage. Like, look over at points allowed.
I know. So that obviously to me is the most important stat of all.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's completely different list,
Right. That's right.
First would probably be the Titans,
Well, no, the Panthers had the worst scoring.
Yeah, they were last in every defensive list I saw.
That's right. So if you were looking at points allowed, it'd be, Detroit, Philadelphia, and the Chargers. The Chargers are right there, 301. So.
And the Bills, actually.
Yeah. But this shows you, I mean, Eagles had a lot of problems on defense the first couple weeks of the year, but they really turned it around. Yeah. They really did. And locked down. And the Chiefs, again, were one of the best defenses, as they always are. So they had a really solid defense this year. So did the Ravens. Chargers being the best in terms of scoring defense. So looking at special teams, this was interesting. Dallas comes in first, largely because they had the best return game by far, both punt returns and kickoff returns. Mm-hmm. Detroit Lions are second. Texans, Jets, Raiders, Colts, Commanders, Bengals, Dolphins, and then 49ers. I was surprised they have no emphasis on special teams, yet they came in 10th. in special team categories. And a lot of the playoff teams aren't even in the top 15, which really surprised me.
And that's weird because their kicker missed a lot of field goals and like
I know. So this was pretty interesting. The Lions were really the only significant team in the top 10 in terms of contenders. And as you know, Campbell does put a real emphasis on special teams. He thinks it's a real difference maker. So any surprises on the offensive, defensive, special teams, and any other stats you wanted to add to the mix?
not really. I was surprised how good the Texans defense was grading out. And also I was surprised to see some teams really good in sacks and not good in takeaways and vice versa and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
offensively, I was surprised how low Josh Allen was. On some level I was, but on some level I wasn't. Lamar put up some big numbers.
I was happy for the Commanders. They're in the top 10 in all three categories. I thought that was really, for a franchise that has struggled as much as they have the last 25 years, for them to be that consistent across all three teams is pretty cool to see, you know.
And in a lot of statistical categories, the Broncos were probably the best defense.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, they were getting 63 sacks. Most teams were getting 40.
That's right. So let's look at the AFC first. The first seed in the AFC is the Kansas City Chiefs at 15-2. Their Super Bowl odds are plus 350. So they're the second highest chance to win the Super Bowl again at plus 350. Their stats leaders, of course, Mahomes. He had 3,900, almost 4,000 yards with 26 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. This was definitely by far his worst season the last 5 years. Didn't even come close to any of his MVP years, but still pretty solid. You know, if you're looking at grading him out against the rest of the league, pretty solid. Kareem Hunt, who had to come in essentially 4 games into the year, ended up getting 728 yards and 7 touchdowns, had a pretty solid year as the backup. Kelsey had a really nice season again, 97 catches, almost hit his 100-catch mark again, and three touchdowns.
But I was shocked he only has 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I saw that. That was interesting.
That's wild.
He really played more of a decoy this year, even though he did get a lot of catches.
He got a lot of first downs and stuff, and that's what you need your tight end to do. But
their tackling machine is Nick Bolton. Their sack guy is George Karlaftis, who we saw him coming on. He's a really good player.
Yeah.
He benefits very much from being on the other side from Chris Jones. He really benefits from that.
Yeah.
And then their intercept guy was very low this year. They usually have a lot of picks. Jaden Hicks with 3 was their top interception guy. So anything else on the Chiefs for stats?
Not too much. Kareem Hunt, their top rusher, only had 728 yards.
Yeah.
I think that's why they're not going to win it all this year. They can't really run the ball very well. He did have a pretty nice year, but 7 touchdowns and no fumbles. So, I mean, that's pretty good. But 7 touchdowns is not that great. I mean, it's okay.
Yep.
No touchdown. I mean, no fumbles. That's pretty nice. But,
what are your thoughts about them being the second highest odds in Vegas to win it again?
I think that's a comment on their coach and quarterback.
Or is it on their 15-2 record?
It's not a talent thing. They're not that talented.
Yeah.
They have some good players, and they have a decent roster.
Right.
And they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Spagnuolo. So Spagnuolo is starting to he's getting interviews with the Jets and the Bears.
He might be the MVP of their team the last 2 seasons. Spagnuolo. He's fantastic.
They definitely won last year because of their defense.
He's really fantastic as a coordinator. Every coach would like to have Spagnuolo.
He had the Niners so confused.
I think he likes being a coordinator. I don't think he wants to be a head coach.
Yeah,
do you?
I agree. He's interviewing, but I don't know.
He makes $2 million a year. I mean, runs the defense.
Less pressure. He can just focus on the X's and O's and
still making a nice living.
Yeah.
All right, number 2 seed is Buffalo Bills, 13-4. Their Super Bowl odds are 600 plus 600. Passing Josh Allen with 3,700, 28 TDs and 6 interceptions. His lowest interceptions in his entire 7-year career. So they've really been coaching him to try to get those mistakes down, and it really showed this year. He didn't have nearly the picks that he usually does. James Cook has been the huge addition for them the last 2 seasons. He got a 1,000-yard season with 16 touchdowns. The guy's just unbelievable. The real surprise was they got this kid as an undrafted free agent, Shakir. He's a rookie. 76 catches and 4 touchdowns. Had a real nice season, along
He
with
did have a good season.
Devin Coleman, who's been a real nice addition from Florida State. So they all of a sudden have all these real young receivers, which is nice to see. Their tackle leader was Dorian Williams. Sacks was Greg Rousseau. And then interceptions, they had 7 different players with 2 interceptions. I thought that was really interesting. So they're kind of ball hawking this year a little bit.
Yeah, they were good at takeaways.
Yeah. So any other stats you want to call out for the Bills?
James Cook was a touchdown machine, 16 touchdowns. And, Josh Allen threw the ball about 100 times less than Patrick Mahomes. He threw the ball like a running quarterback does.
Oh, that's right. On purpose. What do you think of the 6 interceptions? I never thought I'd see an interception rate that low for him.
He threw the ball less, so it's going to go down. Yeah.
But I think they really intentionally try to get him to not make those dumb mistakes that he usually does.
He threw the ball away more. When he ran the ball, he wasn't taunting defenders. He was like running out of bounds. He's smarter than he was 2 years ago.
Yeah. Much more efficient.
They could do some damage because Josh Allen has dialed back the throwing. He's not winging it all over the place and getting in trouble. And they can run the ball down your throat. With Allen and James Cook, you're so tired by the time they're done with you that.
And I like their defense. I think I like ball hawking defense.
Yeah. Their defense is surprisingly good.
Yeah.
It's gotten much better since last year.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Number 3 seed, the Baltimore Ravens. This is not where they thought they were going to be. Beginning of the year, they were gunning for the number 1 seed, but end up coming in 3rd at 12-5. They have the same Super Bowl odds as the Buffalo Bills at plus 600. Lamar had another huge year, over 4,000 yards with 41 touchdowns. I could not believe when I saw that. 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions.
I know.
So, you look at that.
And over 900 yards rushing.
And so I think to myself, everyone's thinking Derrick Henry was the key this year, and he was.
He was.
But Lamar had a better season than both seasons when he won the MVP. He had a much better season. Pretty incredible. Yeah. Rushing, Derrick with 1921 almost got to the 2,000 mark with 16 touchdowns.
He was the key.
Guy's just unbelievable. Zay Flowers has really come into his own with another 1,000-yard season, 4 touchdowns. Tackles was Roquan Smith at 154. Sacks Van Noy with 12.5, and then
he was one of the leaders. I think he was 4th.
Yeah.
3rd or 4th in the league, something like that.
Interceptions was Marlon Humphrey at 6. I could not believe that. 6. I think he's the leader in the AFC.
16 touchdowns for Derrick Henry is real gaudy, and 4 interceptions for Lamar Jackson. That's amazing.
And 41 touchdowns is amazing.
Yeah, that's a very efficient, effective offense. And you got Van Noy getting a lot of sacks. Their defense played tough this year.
I mean, I thought that Josh Allen was going to win the MVP the entire season, but when I look at these numbers, I think to myself, I think it's Lamar Jackson.
Again. It should be.
I think so. Yeah,
the only reason I think you would pick Allen over Lamar is that Lamar's already won it twice. I mean, I think that's literally the only reason you could make the case.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. Allen's had an amazing year, but I'm saying if you look at the numbers, they don't lie.
And yet I still look at this team and I always think of your words every single year. You don't trust the coaching.
I don't trust the coaches.
I make the right playing strategy in the actual game itself and put the right game plan in. I don't know. It's maddening. It's got to be maddening for Lamar that he has these kind of years.
Yeah.
Next one is the 4th seed, and they really shouldn't be, but they are because they won their division. The 10-7 Houston Texans, who kind of limp into the playoffs. Their odds are 8,000, plus 8,000, meaning they're not going to win it. You have their passing yards. The reason that you don't have a person there is because this is combined between CJ Stroud and Mills, 20 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. So they essentially had kind of poor quarterback play from beginning to end this year. It's kind of a miracle they won 10 games. Rushing, they had Mixon, who had a real nice season, 1,000-yard rushing with 11 touchdowns. Nico Collins, you talked about him. He had a 1,000-yard year with only 68 catches and 7 touchdowns. They had this guy, Henry Toto, who's got 105 tackles. Sacks was Danielle Hunter, and then interceptions, they had 2 guys with 5. So like you said, they're kind of ball hawks as well.
Yeah, Danielle Hunter was one of the top in the league too.
Yeah.
He was like top 6 or 7.
What are your thoughts about the Texans? And, they had a real nice season on the defensive side of the ball, but they just feel like they took a step back.
When I looked at their stats, I was impressed. I think their defense is underrated. And offensively, it was kind of a tough year. A lot of picks. But they hung in there. I think Mixon had a good year, and I think he could do some damage in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They're depleted at wide receiver, which I think is part of why CJ Stroud struggled. But
I mean, I personally think they're one and done, but if they somehow find a way to squeak that first game out, which is possible, they'll be 2 and done. You know what I mean? They just don't have enough firepower.
I could see them beating the Chargers.
Possible.
J.K. Dobbins is playing hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could bottle him up, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Justin Herbert. And you could have Danielle Hunter get a lot of pressure. And so that could throw them all off balance.
What are the keys to winning in the playoffs? Coach. I like the Chargers coach better. Quarterback.
Yeah.
I like the Chargers quarterback better. Defense. I like the Chargers defense better.
I don't like it better. I'd say it's about
running game because of injury, probably the Texans.
Yep.
But when I factor up all the things that win in the playoffs, I like Harbaugh to win this game.
I like it mixed. So I could see. I heard a lot of people picking the Texans for the upset today.
Yeah, maybe so.
I don't know. I would definitely do points, Texans and the points.
I wouldn't be stunned, but I think the Chargers will get this one. We'll see.
It would be a true upset because I don't think people really see it coming. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about the Chargers. Their odds are 3,500, so a little better than the Texans, but not much better. Herbert had a big year, almost 4,000 yards with 23 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So very similar to the same model they took for Josh Allen. They did this with Herbert. They basically had him throwing less and making better decisions, throwing the ball out of bounds more. And then Dobbins has been just huge for them this year. He's been carrying the load almost the entire season with 9 touchdowns. They had this real nice rookie come in, Lad McConkey, had 1,149 yards receiving. Really amazing for a rookie. Tackles, Dayon Henley, 147, but they have a lot of guys who are tackling machines. Sacks, their top sack guy, Tulu, had 8.5, and then interceptions still had 4. Again, their defense was the lowest points given up of all defenses out of the 32. So what are your thoughts about the Chargers?
I think they're still building, and they're going to be good in about 2 years. I just don't think they're quite ready, but they had a very solid season. I think Dobbins playing injured is going to really be a big factor.
Yeah, the games where he wasn't very available this year, they haven't done well. So you're onto something there. I mean, he's definitely a big part of their success.
He's huge.
For sure.
And McConkey's a rookie, so he's going to have some nerves.
Right. This will be interesting to see. I think that's going to be one of the most competitive games for sure.
Yeah, it should be a tight one. I wouldn't be surprised either way in that game.
The 6th seed in the AFC is the Pittsburgh Steelers at 10-7. They've lost 4 straight. They were sitting at 10-3 and actually in contention for the number 1 seed, and then they just imploded. and their odds have dropped all the way to plus 10,000. So one of the worst teams in terms of odds in Vegas to win. Russell Wilson with 2,400 yards passing. He did have 16 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He took over from Fields kind of early in the season, had a pretty good, nice middle of the season, and then he just was completely blitzed with a bad offensive line late in the year. Najee Harris had a 1,000-yard season. He had some really nice spots of the season, but he's also been kind of ineffective the last couple of weeks. George Pickens, often the Steelers go where Pickens goes. He's kind of like the A.J. Brown for the Eagles. Had a really nice season. When he doesn't play, they just aren't the same team. Tackles, Patrick Queen with 129. Sacks, T.J. Watt with 11.5. He had a real nice season. And then interceptions, Dante Jackson with 5. So thoughts on the Steelers as they limp into the playoffs?
Well, they graded out really well on defense with turnovers. They got a lot of interceptions and fumble recoveries, but not a lot of sacks. So I think they need to generate more pressure than what they've been doing, and I think it might be kind of their Achilles heel on defense, lack of pressure. And then offensively, they're the worst offense in the playoffs. And I just see every one of their offensive leaders went downward as the season went on. Russell Wilson was less effective. George Pickens was missing in action and having strange games. And Najee Harris became less and less effective. So I think their offense was in a tailspin, and their defense is hanging on the best they can, but they're not really creating pressure. So
I
I think
noticed Russell Wilson is he's very effective against bad teams because he has a lot of time. And I noticed when he plays the really good teams where there's a lot of pressure, it's almost like their offense is broken. Like they can't even get first downs.
Yeah,
It's kind of painful to watch.
it is.
When they play the Ravens, when they play the Bills, when they play the Chiefs, all these teams.
I've never heard so many interior calls for them to make a coaching change as what I'm hearing now. I've never heard this many people want Tomlin gone.
Right.
It's a huge amount of Steeler fans want him gone. So
they were saying maybe even try to trade him, because you can trade a coach.
Yep. Talking about trading him.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. If this is really embarrassing, which it could get, really embarrassing against the Ravens,
it could.
There may be some even more calls in Pittsburgh to make a change.
Their only hope is to get Najee Harris going, I think.
Yeah.
That'll open up.
Not give it to Lamar.
Yep. Fewer possessions and keep it under control. Don't lose control of the game.
I like Lamar and Derrick Henry to blow the Steelers out. I think this is a 2-touchdown game. Yeah.
Huge concern for the Ravens, though, is Zay Flowers being hurt.
Right.
It's a big problem.
I don't think they need him in this one.
They may not, but it's not going to be a blowout without him, I don't think so. Might be a tighter game than anybody wants to admit.
Possibly. So the 7th seed is the Denver Broncos at 10-7. Unlike the Steelers, even though they had the same record, they did not back into the playoffs. They played really well down the stretch. They do have very high Super Bowl odds at plus 8,000. So Vegas does not think they'll win the Super Bowl. They do have a rookie who's playing really well, almost 4,000 yards with 29 TDs. He did have a lot of picks in the early part of the season. He had 8 interceptions in the first 6 games. And then he really cleaned that up, and he finished with 12. So he really looked good down the stretch and looked like one of the better players in the league, even though he's a rookie. Rushing, Javonte Williams, but they have a couple of other guys. They've got about 3 or 4 backs that all had about the same yardage and touchdowns. Cortland Sutton has emerged as one of the best wide receivers in football. Tackles, Brandon Jones with 115. Their sack leader was Nick Bonito with 13.5. And then, of course, they had Patrick Surtain, who had 4 picks, and 2 of them were pick sixes. So he had a real nice season. So thought about the Broncos and how dangerous they are.
I think they have the best defense in football. I think Bo Nix took a quantum leap as the year went on from rookie to solid quarterback going into the playoffs.
Yeah, he really struggled the first 6 weeks, but
Yeah,
after
he was
that,
learning, It was
yeah.
it was tough. He didn't have a tremendous amount of talent around him, but he's learned how to use what he has, and they're a tough team. I don't. They're not going to blow anyone out in the playoffs, but they might be a tough out.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Like I said, unlike the Steelers or some of the other teams that backed into the playoffs, these guys did not. They very much earned it, and they're going to be very tough out. I wouldn't really want to play them right now, the way they're playing. So we'll see what kind of chance they have.
Yeah.
Head over to the NFC. Detroit Lions come in at 15-2. They win the huge game against the Vikings, and they really showed in that game that they're clearly the best team in the NFC. Goff has a really nice year, almost 5,000 yards passing, 37 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. He has some of the most diverse set of weapons in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of games he throws to 9 or 10 different targets. He's got 3 tight ends he throws to. So
Their
pretty
offensive
amazing.
coordinator is so creative. I mean, he's throwing to linemen that are tackle eligible, and he's,
Is there anybody deeper than this team? I mean, it's just like they just bring out the third string tight end, the fourth string tight end. He scores a touchdown. They just seem like they have endless roster at every position.
well, it's total buy-in from every player on the team.
Yeah. I would point out their Super Bowl odds are the number one of all the 14 teams. They're at plus 280. So if you
Yeah,
guys
they're
want
the
to,
favorite.
if you want to get in on the Lions, you're going to pay the highest price, of course. Rushing, Jahmyr Gibbs, he had 1,412 yards and 16 touchdowns. This was definitely his coming out party year.
Mm-hmm.
Montgomery is the backup. He's also really solid, and he's coming back this week. Receiving, you got St. Brown, who's a fantastic receiver, 1,263 with 12 touchdowns. He's a Pro Bowler. Tackles, Jack Campbell with 131. Sacks, Aiden Hutchinson, and that was only in half a season, 7.5. Interceptions, Kirby Joseph with 9. So your thoughts on the Lions, and are there any other stats you wanted to point out?
Um, Not really. They had solid stats in all 3 phases. They weren't the leaders anywhere except for point differential, but they just had a really solid team, and they constantly were having next man up more than anyone else. They suffered more injuries than anyone else, which means they got more guys ready. And a lot of people are coming back now. Several of their players are coming back this week and then the following week if they make it. And so I would say they're just a dangerous team. They have all this depth. They outscore their opponent.
And isn't this a
More
culture thing? We talked
than
about there's you can't put on statistics
yeah,
culture. There's a culture thing there.
no question. I heard I heard an interview with one of his players today, and he said that the team loves when Dan Campbell starts talking to them and giving them the speech. They said the veins are popping in his neck, and he's shaking a little bit, and they said we're ready to go through a wall for this guy. Like
Yeah, for sure.
no
I
question
could see
about it.
that. I could do that.
And they know that they're going for it on 4th downs. And he said the reason we're going for it on 4th down all the time is I don't want there to be a pucker factor. Every down, all 4 of them are useful to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been going for it on 4th down all year long, and we don't want you to tense up and have a terrible conversion rate.
Do you
We
know how
want
many?
you to get those first downs.
Do you know how many touchdowns they scored on fourth downs this year? It was the most
Uh,
in NFL history.
mm,
13. They scored
yeah.
13 touchdowns on fourth down. That's
They
crazy.
don't pucker up when it's 4th down. They're going to need that
Yeah,
kind of poise,
yeah. It's really incredible.
Yeah.
I do agree that they are the favorites right now, and I understand the odds there.
How could they
Yeah.
not be? I mean, the only reason they're not is because of injuries.
Mhm.
Can you imagine if they had Aiden Hutchinson? Can you imagine if they had their 9 starters out on defense? Like what they would be like?
And they never complain. It's just next man up.
They just keep going.
They
Next
never
man up.
complain. Yeah,
They're all willing to run through a wall for Dan Campbell. So
right.
if somebody goes down, the next guy does step in and he's like, all right,
Yeah, that's right.
I'm ready to go through the wall now.
I love their culture. I really do.
Yeah.
Number 2 seed is the Philadelphia Eagles at 14-3. Their Super Bowl odds are plus 700, so a little bit higher. Jalen Hurts had just under 3,000 yards with 18 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. It was kind of a pedestrian year for him compared to last year, where he had a really breakout year. He was hurt some of the year, so there were a couple games that he missed or was minimized. Barkley, however, on the other hand, almost broke the NFL record in rushing with 2,005 yards and 13 touchdowns. Just had a monster year. Definitely should be considered for MVP as well. A.J. Brown, another 1,000-yard season, even though he missed 4 games. Zach Bond with 151 tackles. Sacks was Josh Sweat at 8. And interceptions, C.J. Gardner-Johnson with 6. What's amazing about their defense is they were ranked last in the NFL the first four weeks and came on to the point where they finished in the top 10 in all defensive categories. So they really came on defensively. That's one of the reasons they came in 14-3. Any thoughts on the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, they started poorly on defense. They weren't getting pressure. They were giving up a lot of yardage running, and they tightened it up. Their defensive coordinator did an excellent job. That was Vic Fangio. And offensively, they took the keys to the car away from Hurts, a lot like Josh Allen, and dialed
Right.
him back a lot on throwing.
Mhm.
And they actually told Hurts, run the ball more. So Hurts and Saquon tandem run at you just like the Bills do. But I'd rather have Hurts and Saquon Barkley as a 1-2 punch because I think that's just
Well, I'd rather have Barkley than Cook,
brutal.
barely, but I'd rather
Yeah,
have Josh Allen than Hurts. I mean, he's clearly a much better
true.
player.
But I think together, just you're so sore
Yeah.
trying to tackle Hurts and
Yeah,
Barkley.
it's true. And you know what's funny is they had a little period there at the end of last year and beginning of this year where the tush push wasn't working. Well, it's working again now.
Yeah.
The last like 6 weeks of the season, it was unstoppable again.
They've
So
been resting their linemen. Those guys are ready to go.
yeah,
And let's face it, their weapons on offense are incredible. I mean, A.J. Brown and Smith, they
and
got weapons.
Goddard's back
Goddard,
healthy now.
Goddard,
Yeah,
they can just
they're,
hurt you in so many ways.
they're solid. They're solid, and they just can run the ball down your throat, even if you know it's coming. They still run it on you.
Yeah,
They're that
there's not
team.
much you can do about it
Yeah,
because
yeah,
Saquon will jump over you backwards.
they're a super dangerous team for sure.
Yeah.
Third seed because they won their division. The 10-7 Buccaneers, they barely snuck into the playoffs by winning the division. It was because the Falcons imploded. Their odds are at plus 3,000. They're going to play the Commanders in the first round. Baker had a really huge year, 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 16 INTs. So he has some games where he gets a little loose and throws 3 picks, but for the most part, you can't say anything but that he had one of the better years in the NFC. They had a real nice surprise rookie. Bucky Irving came out of nowhere and gave them 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns this year. Mike Evans looked resurgent with his 11th 1,000-yard season in a row, 11 touchdowns. Tackles was Levante David. He's been leading them for 4 straight seasons on tackles. Sacks is Concy, 7.5. And then they had 2 guys with 2 interceptions each. The Bucks also struggled some of the year on defense, but they kind of tightened up a little bit towards the end of the year. So thoughts on the Bucks?
Bucky Irving was really impressive. Baker played amazing this year. He was a good leader. He was real fiery, and he got his team believing. So dangerous team. Mike Evans is a real threat. For me, he's a top 4 wide receiver, probably.
Yep.
They just kind of have all the pieces you need, really.
Yeah. I think their one Achilles heel is their defense. It can be really exposed sometimes.
Yeah, their defense wasn't super impressive.
They give up a lot of points, and
They didn't get very many turnovers, and they were just not the best.
Yeah, they give up a lot of points to good teams, but
Yeah.
sometimes they just have to outscore the other team. That's what Baker does. So we'll see what happens with them. The Rams come in the 4th seed because they won their division, which was a really bad division. Their odds are at 3,500. Matthew Stafford only played about 2/3 of the season and still almost got 4,000 yards and 20 touchdowns, but missed a lot of games this year. Kyron Williams had a breakout year. He's now on the map for top 5 running back. He was really fantastic this year. Puka Nacua, we already knew he was fantastic, but he had another really great year. Would have easily blown away 1,000 yards, except that he missed 3 games, which really hurt.
He had a great finish to the year.
Yeah. Tackles was Rosebloom, 135. Sacks with Braden Fisk, and then interceptions. They had 2 guys who had 4. So they have a really solid defense that's been coming on last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Thoughts about the Rams?
Well, I think they had some real bad games this year. So you got to see the highs and the lows. Their lows were lower than most. They're the lowest team. They had negative 19 point differential. So that's not good. That means that you're not blowing your opponents out and you're getting beaten.
Don't you kind of look at them kind of like the Buccaneers? I look at them as like the Buccaneers and the Rams are 2 teams that could beat anybody and they could lose to anybody. Like they could have a really bad day and be really inconsistent, or they could have just one of those games like Stafford gets 3 touchdowns and 300 yards passing, and Kyron Williams gets 120 yards and 2 touchdowns.
The Bucs have a -5 turnover differential,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty low. They give the ball away more than they get it. So I don't like that for the Bucs. I think they can play too loose. So I think they're beatable. I think the Rams are the same way, just not always playing at their best.
I think next year the Rams need to get another receiver. Cooper Kupp has become essentially a blocking wide receiver.
Yeah.
So they need to get another receiver, and they need to load up on defense. The Rams need to tighten their defense like the Chargers have.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. They probably have 1 or 2 more years with Stafford.
And always pick a lineman. Always get another one.
They've got the running back position taken care of, and they got Nacua. So they're close. They're close. I like their coaching staff a lot. So the Vikings get the number 5 seed only because they lost the last game of the year to the Lions. They have Super Bowl odds of 1,600. Sam Darnold had his best year ever, 4,300 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 INTs. He does have a tendency occasionally to get loose when he's under pressure. That's his one weakness. Mm-hmm. Aaron Jones was having a fabulous season, and then he kind of got banged up down the end of the year. He did have 1,100 yards and 5 touchdowns. Nice season there. Jefferson's the best receiver in football, 1,500 yards, 10 touchdowns, the most consistent. Tackles Blake Cashman. Sacks were Jonathan Grenard, and then interceptions Byron Murphy was 6. The Vikings consistently have one of the top 3 defenses the entire season. So thoughts about the Vikings and their chances?
They had 24 interceptions. They're very good at causing turnovers. They're very well coached. They were smoking teams with their defense earlier in the year, and I think they just kind of ran into a buzzsaw against the Lions, but I think they'll regroup from that. They're a dangerous team because their offense can get going, and their defense is as strong as almost anybody's.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah, I think that they can beat almost anybody in the playoffs except the Lions. I really think.
Right.
I just think the Lions are better than they are, and
they can definitely beat the Rams.
Yeah, definitely beat the Rams. Agreed. The 6th seed is our Commanders. We grew up with these guys, 12-5. I didn't see that coming. They had a really incredible year, mainly because Jaden Daniels was better than advertised. I think it's pretty clear he's going to be the rookie of the year this year. He was also the rushing leader for the team with 891 yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground.
He was.
Receiving, Terry McLaurin has emerged as one of the top 5 receivers in the league. It's really fantastic. Bobby Wagner with 132 tackles. Sacks was Dante Fowler. Interceptions, Shane Ristrell, who got 2. which tells me that, and we knew this, the defense is their Achilles heel.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to give up a lot of points sometimes, and it causes Daniels to have to score 43 to win. What are your thoughts about the Commanders and how far they've come?
I think that they still have a lot of work to do, but they're one of these young, dangerous teams that is desperate for success because they've gone so long without any success. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that Jaden Daniels gives them an element that they haven't had in a long time, of an explosive player on offense, and he just makes the guys around him better, and then everyone believes in him. So it's just kind of a snowball effect of success that a good culture builds. And I think it all started at the top when the new ownership came in and made some big changes. I think it's been very impressive to watch.
Do you think that there's some disappointment around Robinson and Austin Eckler? I mean, they had a two-headed monster at the beginning of the year, and they both were running it well, and then
Sure.
they both just
Yeah.
got banged up the whole year. They couldn't stay healthy, couldn't stay on the
Yeah.
field. They were down to their third, fourth, fifth string running backs.
There was definitely a disappointment.
I was thinking Robinson and Eckler would be one of the best tandems in the league, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah. Eckler got almost completely pushed out, and Robinson was just dealing with injuries. So
He'd play a week and be out a week, and play a week and be out a week. Just
it's
couldn't
almost
get
like Eckler was removed from the game plan.
Yeah, in some ways. Yeah. So that's a little bit of a disappointment, but overall, this has been
Yeah.
just
You don't want to see your quarterback as your leading rusher.
this has been a dream year for the Commanders. I mean, this is a
Yeah.
team that's rebuilding, and they rebuilt in 1 year essentially with a new coaching staff.
They've put so much excitement back in Washington, and I don't know how you quantify that.
Well, and you have hope when you have a Jaden Daniels
You have hope, you have excitement,
for
you
the
have
next 15
energy,
years. You know,
you have a full stadium, you have merch going out.
there was a lot of Daniels jerseys in the crowds. Finally, you know.
Yeah, it's just a really exciting time when a franchise turns around their fortunes.
Yeah, that's right. I think they've got a real good shot in the first round. We'll see. The
Mhm.
final seed here is the number 7 seed, the Green Bay Packers. NFC odds are 1,800. Was the sneaky kind of dark horse pick I had before the season started, and obviously that's not going to happen because I believe they're one of the most banged up teams along with the Lions. They did have a really good year though. Jordan Love, another good season. Josh Jacobs ran it really well, 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. Jaden Reed has emerged, as has Dontavian Wicks. Their defense was playing pretty solid most of the year. Any thoughts about the Packers as they kind of limped into the playoffs?
I think they could be scary, but I don't think they have more than one win in them. I think they go out against the Eagles,
Yeah.
but is it possible they beat the Eagles? There's a small chance.
I'd say they're one of the real upset possibilities. You mentioned the Texans as a possibility. I think this one is a possibility, but I just think they're a little too banged up right now.
If I'm Green Bay, I'm stacking the box and making Hurts throw the ball, make him
Yeah, me
beat me.
too. Me too. 9 in the box. Now the problem is then you have AJ Brown.
I
So
know, but you're hoping to get to Hurts before you can deliver the ball.
you can't let Saquon go off.
No,
You just can't. Yeah.
you can't let Hurts go off.
And then Jordan Love needs to not have any of those signature bad throws that he does. He's kind of like Josh Allen about 3 years ago. He really
Yeah,
sometimes will
that's right.
throw really bad picks. He's got to eliminate those in this game.
And Baker.
And Baker, yeah. So looking at the playoff picture, here is there's 5 choices that came off NFL.com. This was Charles Robinson's picks. He chose the Chiefs to win the whole thing, 28-24 with Patrick Mahomes as the MVP, and that's against the Eagles. So that was Charles Robinson's pick. What are your thoughts about his bracket?
Mm. I mean, I agree with some of it, but I don't think the Chiefs can get by the Ravens.
I mean, if you think about it, it is kind of true. The Chiefs and the Lions only have to win 2 games.
Yep, that's right.
I mean, it's pretty incredible. Like, it's a big
Well, there's
advantage.
three games to the final, so it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 games in the final. Yeah. So, okay, so he picks the Chiefs over the Eagles. Let's go to Jory Epstein. Also picks the Chiefs, also over the Eagles,
Looks the same.
34-31.
Yeah.
It's a little different. The score's a little different, but virtually the same pick for Jory Epstein. Nate Tice picks the Ravens over the Lions. That'd be a really good Super Bowl, by the way. So he thinks the Ravens are going to knock off the Chiefs and play the Lions in the final and win it, with Lamar Jackson getting the MVP. Charles McDonald likes the Chiefs over the Lions, 31-27. Frank Schwab picked the Ravens over the Eagles, 31-20. What are your thoughts about that Super Bowl? Ravens, Eagles.
It'd be pretty cool.
Be a good one. It's plausible, right? I mean, these are not like impossible.
Sure it is. Sure it is. With the way the Lions are hurt, anything can happen. You got all your backups in there. I love the culture. What Dan Campbell's done is incredible, but at some point it might run out on you.
Right. Yep, that's right. All right, well, let's look at the bracket, Robbie. Tell me what are the games you're the most excited about here, and then tell me who you think is going to win each week. So who do
I'm
you think's
excited
gonna win?
about Commanders Bucks
Okay,
and Broncos Bills.
Broncos, Bills. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm excited about both of those as well. I'm kind of excited about the Monday night game, Vikings and Rams. I think that might be a really good game,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to see if Jordan Love can put up a fight. So, all right, well, tell me who's going to win the Chargers Texans game?
I'm going to go with the Texans.
Texans, okay.
I think it's an upset. I think they can
All right.
surprise the people.
All right, so you got the Texans winning that game. Okay, what about Ravens and Steelers?
Ravens.
Ravens. Okay, I got Ravens as well. So I have the Chargers. I've got the Ravens. Bills, Broncos.
I'm going Broncos.
Okay, I'm going Bills.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so then you've got Texans and Chiefs. Who wins that game?
Chiefs.
Chiefs. Okay, and then you've got Ravens and Broncos.
Ravens.
Ravens. All right, so now we got Chiefs and Ravens in the AFC Championship game. Who wins that game?
Ravens.
Ravens. Okay, you got the Ravens going into the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about. I have the Bills going all the way to the Super Bowl and winning the AFC. So I have Bills, Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. I think Josh Allen gets it done this year. He's going to the Super Bowl. Let's talk about the Vikings Rams.
Vikings.
Okay, me too. I think Vikings win that game narrowly. Commanders and the Bucks.
Commanders.
Me too. Commanders. And then Eagles, Packers.
Eagles.
I like Eagles as well. Agreed there. All right, then you got Lions and Vikings.
Lions again.
Lions again. Me too. Then you got Commanders and Eagles.
I got to say Eagles.
Me too. So I got Lions and Eagles. You do too. Okay, so who you got in that game going to the Super Bowl?
Lions.
Lions, me too. So I've got Lions and Bills, and you've got Lions and Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well, Robbie, tell me your winner, man.
Ravens.
You got the Ravens winning it, huh? I've
If they
got the
run the ball.
Lions. I've got the Lions. I think Dan Campbell gets it done.
I'd like to say Lions.
Jared Goff is going to hold the trophy up.
He's ranked second in so many categories to Joe Burrow. He's having such a good year. Coaching's been amazing. The culture's awesome. I'm just so scared of how many injuries they have. I think they're going to go for it on fourth when they shouldn't, and it's going to give the other team momentum and an easy score.
Right.
And then the wheels are just going to slowly come off as all these backups panic. And
I just think in the Bills-Ravens game, I think that the Ravens are going to go to a maddening game plan where they don't run the ball at all, they don't do any Derrick Henry, and they'll lose by 3 points.
I'm scared of that too, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think the Ravens could beat themselves.
Yeah. That's what I think will happen, for sure.
If the Ravens play well, they should go all the way. And I think the Lions are the best team. The Lions should win. But because of their injuries, it just scares me.
All right, so
it's kind of unknown how many of these guys they're going to get back in time.
So here's the challenge to all of you guys listening and all the subscribers. We want you to drop a comment down below and tell us, out of the 14 teams, who is your Super Bowl winner and why. So give us a comment. We really want to read them off next week in our weekend recap and talk about some of the comments you guys drop for us. Who you think is going to win it? So we look forward to your comments there. All right, Robbie. Well, final thoughts, man, on the NFL bracket.
Yeah, I got an interesting. I was looking today. I counted 3 teams that are different than last year, but I heard Colin Cowherd today said there were 4. So I don't. To me, it looks like Chargers, Denver, and Minnesota weren't in it last year.
Oh, and Commanders. It's 4. It's 4.
And Commanders weren't. Okay.
Yeah, Commanders.
And Cowherd said that 3 of the 4 have new quarterbacks. So quarterback play really has a lot to do with.
Yeah, it's Bo Nix
staying up there.
Jaden Daniels and it's Sam Darnold.
But if you follow me here, last year, at the beginning of this year, there was a 50% turnover rate from playoff year to playoff year.
Right.
So let's go back to last year. There were 4 teams that are in it now that weren't in it last year. That's not very many. Out of the 32 teams, you have almost the same playoffs repeating themselves.
True.
The year before, go back another year, there are 8 teams that weren't in the playoffs last year. So if you go back 2 years, you had a big changeover to the following year. So Seattle was in it 2 years ago, Chargers, Jags, Miami, Giants, Minnesota, Cincinnati, and Dallas.
Yep.
So basically what I'm saying is there used to be much bigger turnover in playoffs, but now that teams have elite quarterback play, they're going to go to the playoffs almost every year and have more consistency in hitting playoff teams. So we'll see if that holds, but it looks like we're seeing the beginning of a trend towards less parity, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, nothing's forever, but that might be a trend that we see again. Like maybe next year you'll see most of the same teams again, and a couple have turned out teams. But I just thought that was interesting.
So 2022. More. You know what's interesting? This is the least number of new teams we've had in many, many years with 4.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's true.
And there's probably decent reason for that. I mean, they were talking about how quarterback play and coaching, there's not a coaching carousel for the most part. Most teams have been fairly steady, except for the bad teams are really always looking for new coaches and new quarterbacks and drafting in the top 4 picks, and they're always picking a new quarterback and they destroy him. And bad organizations do the same thing over and over and they get bad results. The good organizations always have stability in their coaching, stability in their front office, and usually stability at the quarterback position.
It's true.
Yep. And these drafts that have been kicking out this huge number of functional, good NFL quarterbacks is kind of unbelievable. I mean, I heard them talking today about how people freaked out about the 83 draft where it was Elway and Marino. But this year we had, 6 strong quarterbacks that are starters.
Well, he always talks about Cowherd. If you're talking about him, he always talks about you have the haves and the have-nots. And in the playoffs, the teams that have the good coaches and the good quarterbacks win.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as that. And, and he's like, that's why it's become actually more predictable rather than less. He's like,
That's what I'm saying. I think parity's a little bit less.
Yeah. He said, I can pick every division winner by looking at who the coach and who the quarterback is.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's crazy. And this is all the while, by the way, where they're asking the quarterback to do less and less. They're throwing it less. Every team is moving away from these, throwing it 50 times. If you look at the stats for throwing touchdowns are way down. All kinds of statistical throwing stats are down for quarterbacks. And it's because a lot of them are dual threat, so there's a lot more running from your quarterback position. And there's a lot of reasons for it, but I think that's interesting.
All right, you ready to see every team's best play for the year?
Cardinals will return it. DJ Dallas with a burst across the 40. Bass can't take him down. Dallas may go on the outside. One man to beat. Dives to the goal line. Touchdown, Arizona. No flags. 96 yards.
Tell me if you remember these plays.
Mooney moving. That's fired. That's caught. And that is Hodge. And Hodge is going to take it to the end zone.
The
most improbable win for the Atlanta Falcons.
Here goes Henry up a big running game against Dallas. Derrick Henry on the run. Hamlin and Lewis chasing at the 40, at the 30. He will score! 5% of the targets to Shakir completed. This is behind Cooper, who brought it in. Pitched it back to Allen, who's going to go to the goal line and get it!
No! Come on, Mike. Give it to him. Come on. That didn't just happen.
So a new set of downs for Andy Dalton and the Panthers. Here's Hubbard up the middle, still going, inside the 20. Chuba Hubbard takes it all the way for a Carolina touchdown.
Up that clock.
Whelan to punt it away. Cleaner operation this time, trying to pin everybody deep, and it's fielded on the far sideline. It's Blackwell, a little bit of trickery in the special teams game, and Blackwell is going to take it all the way for a Chicago touchdown.
And Burrow with the ball, 1st and goal. End zone, caught, Higgins, touchdown, Bengals win, and they are alive in the playoff race.
He's been disruptive. 2nd and 23, handoff Ford. And Ford, clean cut to the outside, and Ford takes it all the way. Touchdown, Browns.
Stop the clock, 2 timeouts and a 2-minute warning. They can kick this thing deep.
Line drive to Turpin, and it bounces through his legs. Here he comes. Devontae Turpin spinning 3. Here he goes. Fastest man in the NFL. Devontae Turpin takes it all the way. Touchdown, Dallas.
Play action. Minshew looking, throws intercepted by Surtain. Pat Surtain on the run. Nobody's going to catch him. Surtain going all the way for a Denver touchdown. This afternoon for the Titans. Ryan Stonehouse, excellent punter. Raymond from the 10-yard line. Raymond has one terrific return already today. Looking for a second. Raymond up the sideline, across to 30. Khalif Raymond, goodbye.
But Watson in motion on 3rd and 10. Love steps up on the run. Wide open, Jaden Reed. Make the man miss. Reed, goodbye. Touchdown, Packers, 70 yards.
Oh, that is a great honor to be put in the same category. Here's Pierce, and Pierce is going to break free. He's going to go all the way with one man to beat. Mike Brown is trailing him, and Pierce inside the 10 into the end zone. 92 yards for Dameon Pierce, and the Texans.
On 1st and 10, pressure's coming. Richardson slips. Now he's airing it out deep down the field for Pierce. Pierce, touchdown! What a throw by Richardson!
Beringer to boot it away. Parker has to retreat all the way inside his 5, and he catches it. Makes a beeline past the 20. He's got some open space. Past the 40. Gets past the punter. Inside the 40. Parker Washington is going to go all the way for a touchdown as he does the Nestea plunge into the...
Boney the snap. Riley the hold. Lutz the kick to win it. Oh! Blocked! The Chiefs have won! The Chiefs teams with an injury. Watch 51. Boy, they all came through.
I think it was from Samuel Schenker. Minshew wants to set up the screen. Instead, he'll float it over the middle. Jump ball, and it's Bowers down the sideline. The rookie from Georgia with the game's first score.
This team has really had trouble with the run the last few weeks. They're looking a lot better.
Herbert, sideline throw, and the catch is made. Wow. It's Ladd McConkey. He took it away from Alontae Taylor, and McConkey is in for a Charger touchdown. Wow, what a play!
That's why Davis that was good. They lost that receiver.
Murray's going to throw it to the end zone, up in the air, and intercepted. Hit him right in the helmet. And Witherspoon, does he come up with it? Good time to the end zone. Got it! Smith, touchdown! The Dolphins win! In his impact so far in the Viking defense, 2nd down 9. Darnold getting messy, going deep, and he's got Jefferson. He's got Jefferson. It's a foot race downfield with Brown. Shifting gears. Getting a block. That's 6.
Drake May for the game. Padding the ball. May scanning. Loads of time. He'll roll. He'll run. A sidestep. He's ready to throw. Nobody's open. Into the end zone. Touchdown. Oh my goodness. Stevenson. And May.
Of your screen. They need 4. In the pocket. Carr going deep. Rasheed. He's got him. Shaheed. He's into the end zone. And that's a Saints touchdown.
Giants' first lead at the half since week 3 in Cleveland. Second half kickoff is taken out by Smith-Marset. Still going. Amir Smith-Marset, New Jersey native, takes it all the way for a Giants touchdown.
So after the Seahawk touchdown, Myers boots it away, and here is the former All-Pro kick returner for Minnesota, making his Jet debut, Kane Wanwu. He's already housed 3 of them in his career. He's going to get a block, and welcome to the Jets with a big-time return for a touchdown.
3rd and 6 for Philadelphia. Hurts has time. Now locates Barkley out of the backfield. Barkley slips 2 tackles and picks up the first down, jumping up in the air to the 30. A gain of 14.
Moves right here, makes the first guy miss. The spin move at the last second. Bro. And then, what, Tiki, what is that?
Bro. It's got a little bit of time here, and Lofting caught off the deflection by Pickens. It was first Pickens, then Isaiah.
30 yards out. This one from a little farther at 45.
And it is blocked. Sitting out there. Returned. No one in front. Lenore. Touchdown, San Francisco. Oh!
In motion, Kenny McIntosh out of the backfield. Tomlinson a block. He's going deep and he's got him. DK Metcalf. That's 6. What a throw.
And Hacker has it blocked. Tampa Bay's got it. Scoop and score. J.J. Russell. Buccaneers doing it from all angles. Shotgun Levis, 2nd and 9. Levis looking for the big one. And a sliding attempt. Somehow Ridley was there for the touchdown.
So here you go.
He's gotten hit throughout the rest of the game, and it's hurting more now.
Comes down to one last play. And it's going to be getting longer by the second. You're all the way back at the 30-yard line. Now you can step into it. Here comes the Hail Mary with the game on the line. And the ball is caught! Caught! It's a miracle!
So what was your favorite play of the year?
Jaden Daniels.
Was it?
Hail Mary.
Hail Mary.
Second one was Saquon doing the reverse hurdle.
That's got to be one of the greatest plays of all time in the NFL, the Saquon.
Yeah.
I think those are my
because
top two.
He was spinning out of tackles. He was like,
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think number 3 was the Josh Allen pitch back and dive.
Yeah, that was cool.
Quarterbacks can't do that.
And the way he reached for that, that was sweet. That was sweet.
It was good. What do you think about a lot of those plays were special teams plays? And it goes to what you and I've been saying about.
Yeah.
A lot of teams just don't put emphasis on it,
What about the Bears fake punt return?
They showed that too. That was good.
I know. Yeah.
It was really good. All right, man. Well, as we wrap up the regular season, any final thoughts heading into this huge weekend?
Just excited for it. I think there's still a lot of parity in the NFL. I predict there will be some upsets, kind of unlike college where there weren't really any upsets. I think these teams are more evenly matched, so there is going to be some parity. There's going to be factors like injuries, weather that are going to be constantly changing. What's the polar vortex going to do? What are some of these injured players coming back? How much are they going to be able to contribute? So it's pretty exciting.
It is. So, man, it's been so much fun to go on this ride with you, Robbie, and the Sports Guys. We've been building it. I wanted to thank everybody so much for all the patronage and all the views and all the likes and the comments. I can't thank you guys enough. We are 3 weeks away from our 1-year episode, which was our Super Bowl preview special. And, man, it's been quite a ride. So,
yeah, it's been fun. Thanks for joining us on our journey here and hanging with us through this. And we're just getting started, honestly. We're having a blast.
Have so much fun. We got the college playoffs starting tomorrow night, and then on through the weekend, all the NFL playoffs, and just have so much fun with it. Get your popcorn, get your slippers on, and get your friends around you and just enjoy it. Have a wheat smoothie.
Yep.
Thanks, guys, so much. And like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you very soon again on the Sports Guys. Have a great night.
Thanks for joining us.